ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 162 of the Wise Guys Sports Show here on the Wise Guys YouTube channel. I am one of your hosts. I'm the Big Rican on Sports, Mike Martinez, and with me, as always, is the co-host with the technical most, Mr. JC Blue Note, Jim Cornetti. And James, we teased it last week, and let's get to it. It is Football-A-Palooza 3.
Mike, very, very short turnaround. This is one of the shows we look forward to, really outside of the draft show, our hockey preview, and maybe our Super Bowl preview. This is, like, in terms of content, this is my favorite show every year. Naturally, my favorite show that we do every year is definitely the Holiday Free-for-All, our season finale.
Yes, absolutely. And this year's season finale is going to have a little bit more specialness to it because, again, today is Tuesday, October the 25th. We are a little under 60 days before it is 5 years of the Wise Guys. So it's good. I think the season finale is going to be a little bit different than it normally is. But Jim, we decided we were.
I was just going to say, our 5-year anniversary is going to have a little bit of flair this year. Our season finale, Free for All 5. We're going to. We'll definitely have some fun with. It'll be right before, the playoff, the college football playoff and everything, with the NFL playoff going even a month later. It'll be good because we got some gap when we come back early in 2027. But this is also going to be one of the last shows with the current visual look that you see. Yes, we are changing things again very slightly. Mike got a preview, and there's definitely going to be some back and forth. You're going to see a new logo. You'll see a slightly new intro. The old song's going to be coming back in a certain aspect. As much as the Gothic was very nice, I think that can actually be moved back to our feature show, our live stream show. But Mike, I'm kind of missing Abby noise right now.
Yeah, I kind of am too, to be very honest with you. I as much as I have adored our goth entrance and getting the blood pumping when you listen to it, and there's just something about the oldie but goodie.
Yeah, and we're going to probably end up taking a different segment of Scorcher from Abbey Noise with that. Mike got a taste of it. So once I return from my trip this weekend, there will be, a lot of this kind of going in the pipe. I may get a very good chance to work on it tomorrow. Also, Mike, do we want to talk about our programming note now, or do we want to do it in the second segment when it's a little bit more feature rich?
Let's do it in the second segment.
Okay. So, Michael, it's your favorite time really of the year outside of the baseball playoffs as of Saturday. The opening week starts because they don't want to call it week 0 anymore.
Yeah, quote unquote, week 0 is, I still call it week 0 because honestly, I'm playing at College Football 27, and that's what they call it on there too. But week 0 is next or this coming weekend. And then week 1, we open the first weekend of September. Obviously, I have the 2026 schedule written on my calendar at work. Of course, it starts with Ball State and goes to Texas for my Buckeyes. But, Jim, I want to skip the rankings for a minute, and I want to start with the storylines because we had some come out the last couple of days that is a pretty big storyline going into the 2026 college football season.
And there was even an update within the last couple of hours. There were 2 updates on that story in the really since lunchtime today, as we're taping this on August 25th.
Yeah, and here's the update for those who haven't seen it. There, for some reason, has been players who have been cut from NFL squads who have eligibility left that are trying to go back to school. You had one player for Texas. He was an offensive lineman who had already committed to go back. You had another one, a tight end who was on the Cleveland Browns squad running the fuck away, but we won't get into that this episode either. As fast as he could, back to LSU and his former coach Lane Kiffin. Well, some big things have happened.
And the funny thing was with that tight end, he was originally at Mississippi, gets cut from the Browns, and is now trying to use his eligibility to transfer to LSU to go play for Kiffin.
Exactly. So basically, because of the because of the new eligibility rules, because of all the different court cases that have been going on with the NCAA, basically being told one of these by anybody who can do it, these guys technically could use their final year of eligibility, because now talking to an agent no longer makes you ineligible in college athletics because of NIL. So now they want to go back and use their final year of eligibility to up their draft stock, maybe get them in a higher round so they can be on an NFL roster next year. Well, Ryan Day was asked about, I don't know if I told you this. Ryan Day was asked about it in his presser, and he said, listen, we're not into that. I'm not a fan of it, but now that it's being done, we have to look at it. And I think that's the only answer a coach can give, Jim, to be honest with you.
And he needs to kind of eat his words, because the Big Ten came out a couple of hours ago and said, no, you're not, because any coach who tries that is going to get a very hefty fine and/or suspension. And the other half of this story is the not only did the Big Ten officially ban any players from coming back, the SEC, we were thinking who was going to be the first big conference to enact something. The Big Ten takes charge with this, and we all thought, okay, what's the ACC going to do? But now, what's the Big 12 going to do? Immediately, everyone starts putting the focus in on the SEC, and the SEC takes it a step further, and they said not only is it the NFL, the NBA, and the WNBA, if any of these want to come back, they are not going to be eligible. They will be banned, and they haven't really sanctioned penalties or given an announcement as to what those penalties would be, just like the Big Ten is. But at least this way, the NCAA may not, have a backbone after the Brendan Sorsby thing, even though the judge basically stepped in and kind of, killed that whole thing. But kudos to some of these big conferences for saying, yeah, enough's enough. This shit's got to stop.
No, I agree. And to be fair to Ryan Day, he said that 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So this wasn't something he said today with the ruling. And he was absolutely right. At that moment, as a head coach, you have to look at all ways to make your roster better. Now, just play your fucking game.
Yeah.
Just go out and play your game. Jim, real quick, last bit on this part, and then we can get into the rankings that have come out, which neither of us are fans of, but it is what it is. Do you expect the other conferences, being the redone Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC, to come out and say, hey, we're not going to do this either? Or do you think they just kind of sit and do nothing with it?
I think really at this point they have to come out and stand unified, because otherwise, what's it going to look like if they go out and they pull something like this? Because then you're going to have the other major conferences who have already put stuff in, the Big Ten, the SEC, and whoever follows suit afterwards. And then also think of what you're going to have in college basketball with the fact that you've got like the Big East, who's a power conference. You've got the Mountain West, who is vastly improved. You've now got the retooled Pac-12 that, by bringing in Gonzaga, automatically kind of turns them into, I don't want to say a power conference, but they're definitely rising above that mid-major level with coming over. What does it do with, the funny thing is that really the only sport that you can really kind of get away with this is hockey, because those teams will actually go up and play, those players will be drafted, go up, play maybe 10 games, and then get returned back to their college teams at this particular point. So I don't think that's really going to affect college hockey very much, in this regard. The Canadian juniors have been doing this for years, but now we're actually going to start seeing the dominoes start falling. We're going to see, we've already seen the big conference, or at least the SEC, as I just mentioned, take on basketball. We're going to see we're going to see baseball and softball do that, especially now with, the depth of the baseball draft, and now the women's pro softball league, the women's baseball league, with them advancing and everything, the PWHL expanding. So we're going to see all of the major sports start to actually have things like this happen. And these colleges are now going to say, this could be really the catalyst to counteract the NIL, saying, you can make your money here, but you're not going to go up there, get cut, and expect to come back here. No, it's not going to happen. The grass isn't greener.
No, and the sheer fact that this shows us that there is no minor league system for the NBA, the NFL, and of course the WNBA. College athletics are their minor league system, because you notice baseball was never mentioned.
Right. Neither was the NHL, because they have an established minor league system.
Exactly. And I think that's probably not coming anytime soon for any of those leagues. But again, I like the fact that the Big Ten was out in front of this. I made the joke that now that the NIL is, you can bring the money in the front door instead of the back in the SEC. This was how they were going to make their bones and get ahead of everybody, by taking these NFL retreads. But you know what? Good for them too. Good for them too, to put the kibosh on this and to try and save some kind of integrity in this whole thing. But Jim, integrity or not, the train's moving. Games start this weekend, and I know the ticker is there. Let's see what we got across the bottom here. The AP top 25 preseason rankings are out. It is 2 Big Ten teams in the top. As my Buckeyes open the season as the preseason number 1, Oregon at number 2, Georgia number 3. I didn't look very quickly. Who was number 4?
Notre Dame at 4, Texas 5, defending champion Indiana 6, Miami 7, Texas A&M 8, Ole Miss 9, and Oklahoma rounds out the top 10. Receiving first place votes, Ohio State number 1 got 40, Oregon at number 2 got 14, Notre Dame got 6 first place votes, sitting at 4. Defending champion Indiana got 8 at number 6, and Miami got 1 at number 7.
So, I mean, the top 10 itself, so that you had mentioned, we had talked on the phone earlier today. I said, let's look at the top 15. So you start at 11 with LSU, 12 with Texas Tech, Alabama 13, USC 14, and BYU 15. I will say this, number 16 has no business being there. None. Same thing with 18. None. I like Iowa at 22. I know you like Mizzou at 25, opening the season in the top 25. But Jim, let's discuss what this means. And basically, this is just a grab for ratings at the beginning of the season. We do have a big marquee matchup in week 2 with Ohio State at Texas. Do we have any marquee week 0 matchups this weekend?
I didn't think
we did this year.
The only ranked team that we actually have is number 14 USC. Will host San Jose State at 3 p.m. on Saturday. That'll be on NBC from the Coliseum. If you even want to call it that, the entire season kicks off at noon. Bill Belichick takes North Carolina across the pond to Dublin to face TCU.
They're going to get boat raced.
I mean, you've got a couple of decent teams playing this weekend. You've got NC State and Virginia. You've got Stanford playing against Hawaii. You've got Florida State hosting New Mexico State. And then Memphis and UNLV will actually round out the night as the 10 p.m. game. And then we've actually got more games coming up on Thursday, which I'm excited for, because Mizzou's going to open up against Arkansas Pine Bluff. Colorado's going to be at Georgia Tech. Idaho's going to travel to number 21 Utah. UAB is going to go to Illinois with kind of the changeover within UAB with a new athletic director. You don't really have a whole lot going on that Thursday, kind of going into Labor Day. San Jose State's going to have to play 2 games in 6 days, because they're going to have to play next Friday, September 4th. UTEP's going to play Oklahoma on Friday the 14th, Friday the 4th. USC is going to host Fresno State. So they're going to have 2 games in 6 days as well. And then everything really launches Saturday, Saturday, September 5th, with everyone getting in on the action. And also, let's remember, not only does Florida State open against New Mexico State, but they also play on Labor Day against number 19 SMU.
Yeah, Florida State's coming out the gate. Mike Norvell's got to make a big statement this year if he wants to keep his job. That's the bottom line. Number one, Ohio State opens against Ball State at the Horseshoe. But again, like I mentioned, they then go to Texas. And we are starting to see now with what the playoff is doing, we are seeing these teams starting to cancel these out of conference big matchups. Of course, Indiana has canceled their home and home with Notre Dame, which, as much as Signetti wants to run his mouth, that was a pussy move. That was a pussy move, Kurt. You should play these good teams. Don't be the SEC, play dog shit except for the conference, dude. Just play good teams, please. But Jim, the first few weeks, I think we're going to see a lot of movement in these rankings because you have that Ohio State-Texas game at the beginning that you're probably going to see one of those teams fall pretty hard because of the rest of their schedule. You know what I saw funny? The over-under for Ohio State's wins this year is 9.5.
I could see that. And I'm not saying that as a Buckeye hater. And I talked about it with you as much as I was the topic when we get to the NFL in our next segment that's driving the entire country right now. We're not going to delve into that. We're actually going to talk about our special programming note with that. But I was hearing promos like on ESPN's, ESPN Cleveland saying Ohio State doesn't retool or rebuild, they reload. Because again, they've got the money to be able to go out and kind of do this. There's only about 10 or 12 programs in the country that really can. But I mean, it's definitely something. The thing that I brought up with you is you notice now with this whole NIL and this transfer bullshit, and let's call it exactly what it is. It's free agency, that you don't really take stock anymore in, well, Ohio State's returning 14 starters. No, because half of these guys are either going pro or they're actually transferring to other schools to make more money. It doesn't matter anymore.
No, it doesn't matter anymore. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. Let me quantify that. It does because the one thing, and especially what we're going to talk about with our programming note in the NFL thing, is that continuity is, especially in the NFL, or especially in football itself, the NFL, college football, whatever it may be. Continuity is a good thing. Continuity is something that when you have the same core of players, you can build around it. Now, in college, you used to have them for 3 to 4 years. Now you may have 1 to 2. The one good thing about, and if we can now just push into my couple minutes on the Buckeyes that you promised me, and I told you I'm not gonna gush this year. The core of that offense has been together 2 to 3 years. That is the thing I think that people aren't paying attention to. Sayan is in his 3rd year in the program. Jeremiah Smith's in his 3rd year in the program. The majority of the offensive line is in its 3rd year in the program. The pieces they added in like Legend Bay, and of course, Bo Jackson's in his 2nd year with the program. They have a 1st-year tight end. They also have the kid they're calling White Lightning, and I can't remember his name right now. It's Brock something. Chris Henry Jr. Brandon Ennis is a 4th-year senior. So where they lost a bunch of dudes, they did. Ohio State for the 2nd year in a row is replacing 16 starters. A lot of it on the defensive side of the ball. Let's see how much Matt Patricia earns his contract with this coming season. I think offensively, the Buckeyes have one of, if not the top offense in the country. Julian Sayin put on 20 pounds of muscle in the offseason because he's going to run the football a little bit more and be able to throw the deep ball a little bit better. You have the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith returning for his final season. You add Chris Henry Jr., who is an absolute physical fucking alien. He's 6'5" and can jump out of the gym like his old man could. And he's been training with Pac-Man Jones for 10 years. Ennis is wearing the Block O this year.
At the Script Club?
With Pac-Man, you can't ever say no. On that line of joking around, you got to give Pac-Man a lot of credit. He took a big leadership role in these kids' lives when their dad died, because he's helped break
and churlish.
Well, it's both of those things too, but it's, Pac-Man's running a 4.5 at 60 years old with hamstrings that have been put back together by Magic City. So It's going to be an interesting season in the Big Ten because for the first time in a long time, these SEC honks can't talk about the Buckeyes schedule and say it's easy. Texas is the only out of conference game that's difficult. I will give them that. But in a 4-week span, they go to the defending champs, home for Oregon, bye week, out to the Coliseum. That's not an easy stretch of games. And the Coliseum game is Halloween night. Because then you got November and Northwestern, which again, better now that Chip Kelly's calling plays for them. Fun fact, Ryan Day's son is going to Northwestern to play quarterback. I find that very
seems like that seems to be the trend of somebody iconic with Ohio State, where their kid wants to go play somewhere other than Columbus. Herb Street.
I don't think he wanted to play for his. I don't think he wanted to play for his dad. And Herb Street could go play there because it's not like his father was any good.
His father was good, but I mean, he could have been worse. He could have been Steve Bellisari, who was one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen.
And then decided to gamble his life away. Yeah. So here's number 1 Ohio State schedule going into the year. Ball State on the 5th at 12:30. Texas, the night game on the 12th at 7:30 in ABC. Then they host Kent Wright, Kent State on the 19th. Illinois to open the Big Ten season on the 26th. At Iowa, which is never an easy place to play, on October 3rd. Maryland in Columbus on the 10th. At Indiana on the 17th. The bye week at USC, home for Oregon. I'm sorry, I got the schedule wrong there. And then Northwestern in Columbus, at Nebraska, and the big one on November the 28th at high noon. The now what the hell is his first name? Whittingham's first name?
Kyle.
Yeah. Now headed by Urban Meyer's handpicked successor at Utah, Kyle Whittingham. So their schedule's not easy this year. There's nothing that anybody from down here can talk about. They're not playing the Citadel the week before rivalry week, so I think that you got to give them a lot of credit for that. Although it is Nebraska.
I mean,
Jim, I'm excited.
I could definitely see 2-3 losses on that schedule.
I see them being 11-1. And the game I think they lose is one I think they can avenge later in it. I think they beat Texas. I honestly do. Texas has some injuries going into the season that they're not going to be able to replace quickly. But I think Dan Lanning gets them again.
That's the one that I'm circling. I think we're going to find out probably in the first 2 weeks of conference play if Indiana has indeed retooled or if it was a 1-year thing with with the fact that you had Mendoza and the fact that you lost 2 All-American wide receivers, quite a few stalwarts on that defense. I mean, listen, if Indiana proves us all wrong again, Kurt Cignetti is going to go down as one of the best coaches, of this decade, to be quite honest. But I think Dan Lanning kind of gets. This is where I had the issue with Ohio State being number 1 because I think, they do bring back a lot of players, but I think Oregon might just be a little bit more impressive because Heisman Watch has already started with Dante Moore, right out of the gate here. And Dan Lanning's, we saw a couple of years ago where Washington got them 3 times in that year, and then he was out for blood, and they got that close last year. And I think just getting that close last year, I think he's out for blood, and I think he's going to try to run the score up on a lot of teams this year. I don't think he's definitely not going to be able to do that when they come to Columbus, but let's definitely see. I mean, Big Ten does look to be the preeminent conference, but we also can't count out the fact that there's 5 teams from the SEC, all 47 in their conference in the top 10. But you definitely can't sneeze on half of them. You've got Lenore Sellers coming back for another, for another year, trying to basically get himself into a first round draft position. You got Arch Manning, who's on Heisman watch. You've definitely got a lot of really good quarterbacks there. Sane, Dante Moore, somebody else who we're not talking about who's on the second page, like Mendoza was last year, is going to elevate, get their team into a playoff or certainly in a high ranking bowl type position, sneak their way into Heisman watch or something like that, and then kind of, turn things on their ear a little bit. So it's definitely going to be interesting. Plus, also, we don't have to wait until September 12th because we've also got, keep in mind, Mike, we've got three very good matchups on that Sunday before Labor Day. We've got the Apple Cup with Washington and Washington State. Wisconsin's going to play Notre Dame at Lambeau, and then the big one for week one is Louisville and Ole Miss in Nashville.
Ooh, I like that one. I'm glad we're getting the big games early. But here's the thing. And then I want to go into the last point of this, the preview here, and we can break down what we think is going to happen with the playoff come late 26, early 27. Yeah, all that's well and good for the big games. And I think you're right. I think Dan Lanning's going to try and be out for blood this year. But here's my issue with it. When's the last time Heisman Watch got it right?
Agreed. Which is why, which is why we always say that nothing really matters until maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks before the first CFP ranking, because then you're into conference play. You've got a couple of big games already in the early part of your schedule. You're getting ready for your massive mid-season matchup with the way that things, kind of shake out through the year. So putting Ohio State 1, Oregon 2, Georgia 3, Notre Dame 4, fine, well and dandy, but you're going to have one of those teams knocked off that pedestal in week 2, and Oregon's got it, with the I think that there's a little bit more talent in the in the Big Ten West, so to speak, than the Eastern, division or however they call it anymore, or the fact that they went away from divisions, altogether. But it's like it doesn't even matter anymore. But I mean, you got to appreciate, that a lot of these teams are not scheduling the out of conference major matchups because of the influx of everything that you've got them within your conference. It's just all a matter of being able to tool your roster well enough to do that. And, does this actually benefit Indiana? How much more cash flow comes in with them that they can actually go out and spend and be competitive? Or was this a 2-year flash for them where they're basically now back to being a Hall of Fame Bowl or Independence Bowl type team?
Well, I mean, let's get into your final question there, because this could be something that really flips the college football world on its ear if the Big Ten does it again. You had team up north, or I'm not going to be that asshole. You had Michigan win the final year of the 14 playoff, putting the Big Ten bookend on the 10-year run of the 14 playoff. The Buckeyes winning the first one, and of course, Michigan winning the last one. You had Ohio State with that run through Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame to win the first ever CFP in the 12-team format. And then you had Indiana run the table at 16-0 last year to win the national championship, and Fernando Mendoza got his Heisman. Jim, I don't see a team in the SEC that's built to run through a Big Ten team in the playoff, especially one that would have to go on the road north of Mason-Dixon in December. They're not built for it. Each team that's won the title the last 2 years has had to run through one or two SEC or Southern teams. Of course, Ohio State annihilated Tennessee in Columbus. Cold weather had something to do with it. I think we can all agree with that. Indiana, it was at the Rose Bowl, but Indiana ran over Alabama, ran them over.
Well, we can all agree
Ohio
that
State.
it was highly debatable that Alabama was even in that spot to begin with. And the
True,
fact that they're
true.
starting this year, when's the last time we saw Alabama start the season outside the top 10? And they're sitting at 13 right now.
Oh, like 15 years ago.
Right.
I will say, and Bama had a hard time with Oklahoma in Oklahoma that night.
Right.
When they won by, what was it, 2 points? And that was from the cold. Joel Klatt said something in his show. They need to have the second round games on campus too.
I
mean,
I honestly don't know about that, just because a lot of those second round games are, right during the holiday season. And the fact is, if you take them away, those are 4 decent, size bowl games that you're not getting. So, I mean, you're actually going to now have to put, 8 extra teams that are like, are you going to start putting 5-win teams in bowl games now?
Well, it's very true. I think they should be on campus because you win home field advantage by being the higher seed. And this is me being a very bitter person, hearing people down here talk college football. And when I say the words, we'll play a game above Mason-Dixon in November and see how good you actually are. And every last one of them looks at me like I got 6 heads.
See, the other point that I go away from with that, the College World Series has 8 teams and they're at a neutral site. March Madness, they don't do those on campus, even if they're, even if they're first 4 games. I like having everything really outside of that qualifying round at neutral fields. I have no problem with that.
It's not that I have a problem with it. It's that if you get the bye, you've earned basically your pick of where you're going to go to the closest one to you. But even with March Madness, if you're a number 1 seed, you're basically staying within an hour or so of home.
Yeah, I mean,
unless you're the 4 overall and you have to go to the West Coast. But Duke, when they're a number 1, where are they? They're in the East.
Yeah,
if one of the Southern teams is number 1,
they're in
the
Raleigh, they're in Atlanta, they're in Miami, they're in New York. I mean, with college football, as we're winding down here, we'll go a few extra minutes, long with this if we have to. Like Ohio State, could you put, if they get a number 1, do you actually have one of those bowl games at a neutral site at like Ford Field? Do you put them in Indianapolis? But then again, you don't want to put them in Indianapolis, considering they would, if they got a number 1 seed, they already would have won the Big Ten championship there. Do you, in a few years, you might actually be able to put them in Cleveland in the dome there? You're definitely going to want to do that. You may end up getting a national championship up there, before too long. It's a cold weather venue, but we've had a Super Bowl in Minneapolis. We've actually had a Super Bowl we've had one in Indy. We've had one in Indy. We've had one in New York. In cold weather environments, but 2 of those places have roofs on them.
I never thought about that. All the stuff we've talked about, that fucking barn that's going up in Brook Park, we've never brought up college football. Dude, could you imagine that joint if they played there?
The only thing with that is that you'd also have to make sure that you're going to be in a barn where you're not running into scheduling conflicts with the NFL.
Agreed.
With the NFL teams, because with that place, it's going to be a dome. It's not going to be retractable, so you're probably going to have to actually put turf, like grassy turf or something in there.
Well, the new turf that they're using, what the Buckeyes have outside, that's probably what they'd end up having. But you could play a championship game there. It's not like the Browns are getting anywhere.
True. I mean, that's a different story for a different, point. But Mike,
yes,
give me your if you could give me. I'm not going to hold you to a Final 4 here, but give me 5 teams you think. I don't want to say I'm not going to put you on championship watch, but give me 5 teams that you feel could basically be at those neutral site semifinal or championship games in no particular order.
I think If Ohio State's defense comes together like I think it will, they will definitely be there with all the firepower they have on offense. I'm going to sound like a homer here, Jim. You're giving me 5 teams: Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, right off the bump. Maybe Georgia. We got to see how good Gunnar Stockton actually is. And the 5th team, unfortunately for me, is Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman might be, and he didn't win a championship yet. Marcus Freeman might be the best young coach in college football.
I agree.
I think it's either him or Dan Lanning.
Agree.
But I honestly believe that you will see 4 teams from the northern part of the country in that final 8 teams. If I had to say my final 8 right now, just out of any randoms: Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, Texas, Notre Dame, Georgia. That's 6. 7 and 8, I'm probably going to go BYU, who could be the bracket buster by winning the Big 12. And you know what? I'm going to go here. I think Kiffin has a good first year. So those are my 8 right there. But if you're sticking me to 5, then yeah, Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, Notre Dame, Georgia.
I'm going to go, and this is not trying to sound like a hater at all. I'm going to go Oregon. I'm going to go Notre Dame. I'm going to go Texas. I like Georgia. And I think last year with their run, I think they're back. I like Miami.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot about Miami. You're absolutely right.
I think Ohio State. I think Ohio State will actually have a little bit of a down year for them. I expect 2, if not 3, regular season losses out of Ohio State this year. And if they do get in, they're going to actually have a very, very tough draw.
No, I agree with you. If they lose to Texas and Indiana, I think they're going to have a hard time. Never mind if they have 1 loss in the conference, they're going to have a hard time getting in. So you're probably right. Listen, it could go that way this year. We don't know. I will say this: that's an offense that if you get into a shootout, you're not going to be able to run with them.
You're talking Miami?
Both.
Okay.
You get into a shoot. There are 3 teams. If you get into a shootout with them, good fucking luck. Ohio State, Miami, and Oregon. If you get into a shootout with any one of those 3, put your track shoes on, because they will turn this fucker into a track meet so fast your head will spin.
Because that's actually why I like Texas and Georgia. It's not even their offense. Georgia's got the ability to be explosive because they like to pound you out, on the ground a lot more. I think with Texas, even if Arch has a rebound year, but he's not in the Heisman capability, Texas might have the best and most menacing defense in the country. And I think that's what's actually going to put them over the top in the SEC.
The only thing to say about that is they lost 2 pieces. They lost a D lineman and they lost a linebacker to injury already. So we have to see how they bounce back in weeks 1 and 2 to cover that up.
Michael, we go from the guys who have been getting paid to the guys who get paid a lot more and can legally start changing teams, and it's more entertaining. The 2026 NFL season is on the horizon. We've actually got, from the time that we're taping this, we've got our final week of preseason games starting, and then everything kicks off here in about 2 weeks' time in Australia with the Rams and the 49ers. Michael, 32 teams all vying for a spot in the Super Bowl on Valentine's Day this year. We're going to say goodbye to Aaron Rodgers, finally. We're going to see, can Seattle repeat? Was it fool's gold? We've got a lot of new faces in a lot of new places. And namely, what I'm talking about is we've got 7 or 8 new starting quarterbacks, and we've also got 8 or 9 new head coaches around the league. I can't remember a last time we've actually had a shakeup like this. in terms of the two major components of a football franchise makeup.
Yeah, it was definitely a very eventful NFL offseason. Going into this season, I got to tell you, I'm also excited to see how the NFL season plays out. Um, Especially, let's start with Mister Black and Urine, Aaron Rodgers in his final season. Um, you know what, Jim? This is the end of a Hall of Fame career. Uh, he's got a ring. He's looking to get a second one. I also think he was part of the reason Mike Tomlin left at the end of last season. But they gave him his Super Bowl winning coach in Mike McCarthy. They have given him, he's got good weapons with DK Metcalf still out there on the outside. The Steelers always have a good defense to go with that. The question remains, is Aaron Rodgers going to be like Peyton and go, is he going to get to a Super Bowl? I don't think so. I don't think they've got enough, but that's just me.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's look at the coaches and the quarterbacks here that have changed as I go to my notes. I'm just gonna go right down the pipe in alphabetical order. Mike LaFleur, it takes over as head coach with the Arizona Cardinals, his first head coaching job. We saw former two-time coach of the year in Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski, mutually part ways after last season, and now has taken the job in Atlanta. And they've just started a quarterback competition in the third week of the preseason right now. So now they're still undecided if it's going to be Tua or Michael Penix.
Well, when your choices are Turturro's character from Longest Yard and a guy with one leg, who do you play?
Mike LaFleur has already established that the starting quarterback in Arizona is going to be Jacoby Brissett, taking over for the departed Kyler Murray that we'll talk about here in a moment. Stefanski, we've already talked about. Jesse Minter gets his first head coaching job, taking over in Baltimore as he was the Chargers offensive coordinator last year, one of the highest sought after coordinators on the coaching market. Joe Brady, after Buffalo mutually parted ways, his name is eluding me. Sean.
Oh no!
McDonough? No.
Yes.
Sean McDermott.
Sean McDermott.
It's a brain fart.
It's
late. But he takes over as last year's offensive coordinator. Now steps up to be able to command a Super Bowl contender in the Buffalo Bills, whose window is starting to close a little bit here. We'll talk about this one at length in our programming note here in a couple of moments. Todd Monken takes over in Cleveland for Stefanski, who departed after being the offensive coordinator in Baltimore last year. And just over 24 hours ago, the story that has exploded the sports world, no matter what sport it is, naming quite honestly, very controversial choice in naming Deshaun Watson starting quarterback, who has not played in over 2 years over the incumbent rookie Shadur Sanders. Clint Kubiak takes over in Las Vegas after being Seattle's offensive coordinator, taking them to a Super Bowl last year. The Vegas quarterback situation is still to be determined, coming down to Kirk Cousins or Fernando Mendoza as the number one overall pick. We all think it's probably going to be Cousins, and it's only going to keep the seat warm until Mendoza's ready to take that spot over midway through the season. Jeff Hafley takes over in Miami as he was the Packers defensive coordinator last year. John Harbaugh, after more than a decade and a Super Bowl in Baltimore, mutually parts ways after another early playoff disappointment, takes over with the New York Giants. We talked about Mike McCarthy, who actually took a gap year. Mike McCarthy's last job was the head coach in Dallas in 2024, and Robert Saleh takes over in Tennessee after being San Francisco's defensive coordinator a season ago. A couple of the other quarterback competitions I've got here in Miami, Malik Willis was named the starter after Tua Tagovailoa left, and then Kyler Murray in Minnesota taking over for J.J. McCarthy. Um, Michael, I mean, naturally, there's not a whole lot of confidence here with these starting quarterbacks. You got to figure at least several of these teams are really starting to think about the 2026 draft. You got to think Arizona's got to be looking, Miami's got to be looking. Vegas has apparently got their guy. Cleveland's, we know for a fact, is definitely looking. Minnesota, they've got to actually, Minnesota, I think, is more so going to be looking more towards free agency to fill that void. Atlanta's, we think, has got their guy. It's just a matter of who's going to stay healthy enough long enough to keep it locked down.
You're absolutely right. And Jim, great rundown on that, by the way. I mean, that was a lot to take in. Let's start in Minnesota and the most glaring proof that Michigan cheated for 3 years. And that's J.J. McCarthy is terrible. Kyler Murray was shown the door by the franchise that mortgaged its future after drafting a quarterback in the first round to go get him. And now he's starting for Minnesota, who let go of Sam Darnold for JJ. Darnold won a Super Bowl. JJ has looked like a guy who can't get out of his own goddamn way. And now Kyler Murray is throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson. Are you absolutely kidding me? I don't think the new coach in Arizona had a choice. I think Jacoby Brissett was the only one who could have been named the starter there. Malik Willis, a second chance in Miami, with a defensive-minded head coach. Harbaugh's got a quarterback in Jackson Dart. Mike McCarthy picks up Aaron Rodgers. The real question there is, who do they go to after Aaron Rodgers? Are you drafting, or is it Will Howard? Is it Drew Aller? Who knows?
I have to think they're probably thinking Aller.
Well, not for nothing. Drew Aller's shown when he gets into big games, he doesn't know how to hell throw the ball to his own team. Who else did we have change quarterbacks there? Let's talk about Atlanta for a minute. Yeah, they're fucked.
And this was a team that
straight out fucked.
I mean, this was a team that we all thought was kind of knocking on the door for contending. Mike, it's not going to be the best division in football. We think still that honor might be in the AFC West, and we'll break down some of these division races here in a couple of moments. But could the NFC South be the most entertaining division because of how up in the air it is? Because you get some stability with Atlanta. They could jump into there. Tampa's lost a couple of weapons, even though you've got the uncertainty with Baker Mayfield's contract situation. Is that going to hang overhead? Vita Vea originally wants a trade and then signs a big contract to stay. They don't have Mike Evans anymore. We saw how well Tyler Shuck played in his first year in New Orleans. Could they jump up into this? And oh yeah, you've got the incumbent division champion, the Carolina Panthers, who right now they've got to actually make a decision on Bryce Young. But really, if Young can really turn that corner, Carolina's got the potential to make a lot of noise in the NFC in the postseason this year.
They absolutely do. And I think you're right. I think the NFC South is going to be the most entertaining because it is up in the air. You look for Baker to have a bounce back year. You know, Baker was hurt a bunch again last year. Had the knee injury, had the other portion of the leg injury. Yes, there's no more Mike Evans, but again, Mike Evans only played 5 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
He'd become an injury issue. Yeah, Bryce Young could be interesting, and Tyler Shuck did play well. I don't think Atlanta is going to be nearly as good as you're giving them credit for. I think they have real problems on the offensive side of the ball, starting with the fact that they may have to play an undrafted second Division II quarterback until Michael Penix is healthy. Tua is terrible. He is absolutely terrible. Going to some of the other teams that have changed quarterbacks or changed coaches, you had mentioned the Bills. Their windows closing like some of the obstructed view seats in their new stadium.
I have a tendency to agree with that, and we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. because we're gonna talk about ESPN columnist Bill Barnwell came out with his 5 teams that he feels that are going to improve this year, and 5 teams that are going to take a step back. And we'll look at each one of those here very, very briefly.
The one team I'm going to bring up that you did not mention, with the with the teams that are, improving. I'm going to give you one off the top of my head that you mentioned it. As much garbage as our coach caught all offseason, I think New England's going to get better.
And let's talk about that. Bill Barnwell expects that the teams that are expected to take a step back in 2026, in no particular order: Chicago, Jacksonville, Denver, Carolina, and New England. Now, he is not saying because all 5 of those were playoff teams and 4 of those were division. As a matter of fact, I think all of those were division champions last year. He's not saying that they're not going to make the playoffs. They might not possibly win divisions, but they're certainly not going to blow everyone's doors off, by the time the season's over, like they did last year. Chicago won their division last year. New England went to the Super Bowl, albeit they had the easiest schedule in the league by the time it all shook out. Denver, quite honestly, should have won a world championship if Bo Nix doesn't break his foot in the 4th quarter of their playoff game against Buffalo the week before the conference championship game.
Yeah. I have to disagree with Mr. Barnwell very respectfully. I believe New England's going to get better. New England's biggest issue, yes, they had a shit schedule, and Jim, and you can't control that because the NFL makes your schedule. You don't make your own. You play who's in front of you. And a lot of the teams on New England's schedule that were supposed to be good did not play well last year. I will say this. You have a second year of Travion Henderson, another year of Drake May. You had the offseason to fix some of the offensive line issues. You now have A.J. Brown in New England. That's nothing to shake a stick at. The rest of them I can totally see. I can see the Bears falling off the face of the planet. I can see Denver having issues now that Patrick Mahomes should be healthy, and a healthy Travis Kelce coming into another season. It brought most likely his final season.
Correct. Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to talk about when we look at the divisions here in just a second.
Yeah. Which 5 teams did he say we're going to take a step forward?
In no particular order, both the New York teams, the Giants and the Jets, because let's be honest with the Giants, as much as we think about Jackson Dart, he's coming back off the injury, the injury late in the year. They've got nowhere else to go but up. The Jets really have nowhere else to go but up, so it's almost by default. He thinks Detroit rebounds. He thinks Baltimore bounces back. And he also thinks naturally Kansas City, with the fact that Mahomes is back. And Kansas City did get old on a lot of pieces of the ball, but they definitely improved with a lot of their skill position. I think really with a healthy Kelce, with a healthy Mahomes, I still think Denver is the class of that division. There's still part of me, Michael, that thinks that Kansas City might be the 3rd best team in that division, but could still get in. But that division still could get 3 in because of, how the cream rises to the top, and there's not a whole lot of it in the AFC right now. I equate the AFC really to how you look at the American League in baseball. You've got the you got the AL East, where all of your major contenders are, and everyone else is kind of sitting around 500 in the other 2 divisions, where in the AFC, you've got Jacksonville, I think it's the class of the South. Tennessee's not there yet. Indianapolis, let's see what happens with Daniel Jones coming back healthy. And who's the other? And Houston. Houston's got a great defense, but there's a big part of me, Michael, and I'm not trying to say it to slight the fact of where he went to school. I think the luster is very much off of CJ Stroud right now, especially with some of the stories that are coming out of how far apart they are on contract talks, with him going into his final year. I think he's good, but realistically, he's kind of Daniel Jones good. He's good enough to kind of get you to the playoffs. I don't think he's good enough to get you where you want to go.
Well, in fairness to CJ Stroud, he's also had the second worst offensive line in the game his entire career. This is the thing that gets me about the quarterback thing. This isn't just you. We've had this discussion before. No one takes into account what is around the quarterback when they decide if he's good or not. CJ Stroud set rookie records. He regressed in year 2, but if you look at it, his offensive line went from middle of the pack to bottom of the league in pass protection. And they have not improved steadily like you would hope they had. You can't throw the ball to people when you're getting smacked in the face every other snap.
Look at what happened in Cleveland last year. All-world defense, offensive line couldn't stay healthy, and that's why they only won 5 games last year.
I mean, they won games. They felt that franchise felt that if they scored 17 points, they would have won 4 more games.
Right.
They would have finished 9-8 if they could just score 17 points a game. Think about that. 2 touchdowns and a field goal per game, and you win 9 games.
So so we go from the AFC South. Let's go to the AFC West, which I just said best division in football. You got Denver with a healthy Bo Nix, who, by all accounts, that injury is not going to debilitate him, kind of like reconstructing a knee or tearing an ACL or something. You got Patrick Mahomes. You've got Justin Herbert, who we think that the Chargers are, say what you want about him and who his coach is, San Diego. I can't believe I almost call him San Diego. But the Chargers, I feel, are the second best team in that division, right now. And then the Raiders have nowhere to go but up, especially with the fact of Mendoza, how well he's played in the preseason. I mean, we all think it's Denver's division to lose. Michael?
Agreed. I will say this. We're taking shots at CJ Stroud. What's Justin Herbert done that's so great that it puts him in an elite conversation? Besides his size, what's he done? He's gotten the playoffs every year like Stroud has. Hasn't delivered. His stats are fair to Midland at best. I don't get it. I don't get what the obsession is with Justin Herbert. Is it his girlfriend? Come on. There's 2 other wives now in the NFL that are far better looking than that girl. One in Kansas City and the other one in Buffalo. I mean, seriously now.
I mean, last year, 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. 2024, 3,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
So he hasn't thrown for 4,000 yards yet.
He actually has. He's done it twice.
Oh, did he? Okay.
5,000 yards in 2021, 4,700 in 2022. He's already thrown 163 touchdowns over his first 6 seasons.
That's 20, 160 and 6, 80s, 2. So it's at 25 a year?
27.1 per year.
Okay. And
only 58
what did
interceptions,
the Chargers spend?
So it's less than 10 interceptions a year.
Yeah. And what did the Chargers spend most of their first round picks of the last 3 years on?
I agree. I'm not going to deny the argument.
But here's the thing. He gets to January and he thinks he's back at Oregon. No, it is the best division in football. The Raiders are markedly improved. I would think Kirk Cousins gets to the end of October and then Fernando takes over. So having said all that, I will say this. I will see your AFC West and raise you the NFC West. Because outside of Arizona, those 3 teams at the top of that division are going to beat the shit out of each other all year.
Right. You have the defending champion Seahawks. You have who a lot of people are saying are going to be there at the end of the season in the Los Angeles Rams, and San Francisco is always there as well. They've got more than enough talent regardless of what's going on in their front office right now. We're not going to make that joke because it says it makes itself. But yeah, you've got three
But East
perennial
Palace.
Super Bowl contenders in the same division right now.
Hold on, Jed went to East Palestine for that shit. Come on now. There are so many better cities in Ohio he could have gone to. No, give me the one I want.
But there's so many of them.
Give me the one I want, please. Not that one.
Which one do you want?
You know which one I want. I have a counter for it.
Oh, okay.
The Mrs. Kelsey.
Okay. Can we not do that right now?
Okay, we won't do it right now. Look,
go ahead.
The Raiders are basically the Avengers. Not the Raiders, the Rams. Sorry. The Rams are basically the Avengers, especially with what they just did. You gave them Myles Garrett. One win from the Super Bowl, and you gave them Myles Garrett. That's kind of like giving Giannis to the Heat. Anyway, yeah, I think the best the NFC West is the best division of football because you have three teams that right now you can sit here and say to me, there is a path for each of them to get to the Super Bowl. I don't think there's the same thing in the AFC West. I don't think there's a path for the Chargers to get there. There's one for the Chiefs because they've done it a few times. There's one for the Broncos because they are the class of the division. There's no path for the Chargers to get there. There's no path for the Raiders to get there.
We shift to the NFC South. We talked about the issues going on with Atlanta. We touched on this division for a moment earlier. Michael, with the turnover that we've seen in Tampa, could this be a division that New Orleans might be able to reach in, sneak up and maybe steal? Or does Carolina be able to kind of use the Sam Darnold analogy that they've got enough talent to win that division again? They just need Bryce Young not to be a turnover machine and just kind of manage the offense a lot like Darnold did last year.
I think, you know what? I think Tampa's going to win the division again. I think Tampa only lost the division last year because they were hurt. So they had such terrible injuries last year on both sides of the ball. Baker played hurt again most of last year. Emeka Egbuka, who came out of the gates flying, got hurt last year. Mike Evans spent 95% of the season on the shelf. Chris Godwin was hurt. Bucky, the running back, he spent time on, he spent time on the injury reserve. Vita Vea got hurt last year. Everybody got hurt last year for Tampa. Mm-hmm. That was a lost season for the Buccaneers. That would have been their fourth consecutive division title in there. I think they bounce back. I think they're healthy. I think they're younger than they have been for many a year. And Baker, yes, he's got something to prove. He wants his money. And we've seen when Baker's on a prove-it deal, he plays well.
And think of the X factor with Tampa is their defense. You get Reuben Bain and Josiah Trotter very high on, in the draft, really out of the first 45 picks as two All-Americans right there. Bain, the defensive end out of Miami, Trotter, the linebacker out of Mizzou, and also re-signing Vita Vea, looking for something to prove, saying he wanted to be in Tampa. He definitely wanted to sign. Finally, they got the numbers to work after originally requesting a trade. So that's going to be very interesting to see what's going on in Tampa. But Mike, we've got 4 divisions left and not a whole lot of time here. The NFC North might be the more competitive division. Do we think that the Bears take a step back? Do we see that the Lions maybe kind of return to form? You've got Green Bay involved with that as well. And then Minnesota still being the wild card. This is definitely a division I can maybe possibly see, I don't see anyone really running away with this division. This might be one of those divisions where all 4 teams kind of hover, in that 7 to 12 win area. So you don't have somebody kind of bringing up the rear way out, way behind the pack like you would in, let's say, the AFC North, so to speak, that we'll touch on here in a second.
Yeah, I think Detroit wins this division, and I think they're going to win it going away. You got to remember something. Detroit not only had injury issues last year, they also lost both their coordinators. So they did not have that happen again this year. So you're going to have the coordinators with these 2 units, with the 2 main units, obviously defense and offense, for a second year, and you're going to get some of these guys back healthy. I like Detroit to bounce back. I think Chicago was just a team that got hot. I think the Packers are missing something. I don't know what they're missing, but is it just, to me, just something isn't there. And I'm going to say this, and probably could possibly be wrong. I think Minnesota's going to lose 12 games.
You really think?
I think Kyler Murray is not nearly as good as people think he is, and JJ's worse.
You're a little hard pressed to kind of disagree with that. And let's round out the NFC by going to the East. You got Dallas, who's always kind of in the mix. The Giants, we think, are going to be improved. Philadelphia is still the class of the division. Mike, I want to talk for a very quick second here about the Washington Commanders. We actually talked about their new appearance on last week's show. Is this basically make or break for Jaden Daniels at this point? Is this something where we may be able to start thinking they may need to move on with him? They may need to put him in the Bryce Young discussion from last year if he does not bounce back in a big way this year.
Well, first of all, let's say this. We got to keep this segment to 4 minutes and 59 seconds because we can't go to 5. Second of all, don't look at me like that. Second of all, here's the difference. I got the right ones in today. Difference. Jaden Daniels was hurt last year because of poor play by his offensive line. Bryce Young wasn't hurt when he was put in that conversation. Bryce Young was playing bad. When Jaden Daniels was on the field last year, was he as good as he was his rookie year? No, but he was still far more serviceable than anything they had on the roster. I think you have to give him a healthy year 3 in order to make that determination. You don't have to activate his 5th-year option until after year 4. I'd say give him the next 2 years. And if he's not going to be any good, draft somebody in 2 years.
Speaking of draft somebody,
it's Philly's division. It's Philly's division to lose.
Speaking of drafting somebody, in the near immediate future, we shift to the AFC East. Buffalo looking to kind of climb back on top. We talked about New England, winning that division. I think New England's schedule going to be a little bit tougher, and I think, they're going to get a bit of a wake-up call this year. I think Buffalo comes back and wins the division, but I think it's not nearly the gap that everyone thought it would be, a couple of years ago, where Buffalo just kind of ran away with it and ran all over New England, really in every matchup that they had. We think Miami, with their changeover with their coach, their quarterback situation starting to settle a little bit. Malik Willis, let's see what he does as a starter. We all know the Jets could be arguably the worst team in football right now, but at least we've actually got, one of the worst teams. I mean, you got to put them bottom 3. I would think right now, if you put the entire 53-man roster, 1 to 53, and pair them up, they may not be the worst team in football, but in terms of roster-wise, I think you got to put the Jets roster the worst in football.
Yeah, you do. You're right. As far as worst run teams, Jim, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think New England gets it done again. I think that run to the Super Bowl again. You're going to get some guys back healthy. You made some adjustments on the offensive line. You have your quarterback. You gave him a Stephon Diggs or AJ Brown. I'm sorry. AJ Brown's a better weapon.
Right. I'm not going to deny that at all. As much as I actually didn't like, Stephon Diggs with the way that he would short arm passes in the playoffs for Buffalo, but I got to agree with that.
Yeah, AJ Brown's a better weapon. I think that's what it's going to come down to. I think the Bills themselves, Josh Allen's in year 11, Jim. Or year 9. I'm sorry. Year 9. It's 9 or 10 for him because was he Baker's draft?
Yes.
That's year 9.
Yeah, because you remember that draft went Baker, Rosen, Wilson, Allen.
In the order of quarterbacks, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
No, it went Baker, Darnold, Allen. Zach Wilson was 18.
Okay. And Patrick Mahomes was
19.
Was the year
Patrick
after.
Mahomes was the year before. What was the year before? Yeah, Mahomes was the 10th pick the year Miles went 1 to the Browns. 17.
And then we have to finish here. I know the counter says 30 seconds. We'll probably, I'm not saying we're going to go 10 minutes extra, but the AFC North, the one that's most near and dear to Mike and myself here, Pittsburgh, Mike, in Rodgers' final season, could we finally be looking at the year that Pittsburgh doesn't make the playoffs or actually has a losing season because of all the turnover involved?
No, because I think they go for, I think they win 5 games in the division and win the AFC North.
Baltimore with the new head coach and Jesse Mint. I'm sorry. I just brought him up. Minter.
Yeah, Jesse Minter.
So with Jesse Minter, his first head coaching job, he's got a future Hall of Famer in Derrick Henry. He's got an all-pro caliber talent in Lamar Jackson, who's another year older. And quite honestly, Mike, we have to start thinking that his style, the more it progresses, the more teams are going to latch onto him. I could see Baltimore. Barnwell says that that Baltimore's going to improve. I may have them taking a step back. I have no problem in saying that this is Cincinnati, potentially their division to lose, with the fact that they finally put some money into their defense. Even losing Trey Hendrickson, you can't argue with that offense if they can stay healthy.
And I don't think they can. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will repeat as AFC North champions. I think they win 5 games in that division. Baltimore will finish second, but Baltimore's going to do what Baltimore does. Lamar's going to get the cold weather and decide he can't throw the football. He's going to have to run. And they're going to forget Derrick Henry's back there, and they're going to do the same shit they did last year. Because guess what? They've done that same shit every fucking year since Lamar's been the starter.
The one team that we did not talk about in this breakdown is for good reason. Programming notes, not next week for our normal show. As you see it here, no special title or anything. We're back to, looking at everything. We'll look at baseball. We're after Labor Day. We're down to the final month of the regular season there. You're going to have the final cut downs in the NFL. We're going to see what names possibly get released. There's a lot of talk that people say that Will Levis is going to be cut in Tennessee. So that could be a guy that could actually step in, and latch on somebody's roster, as a secondary quarterback, possibly even a starter. Like, could we see him in New York with the Jets? But the programming note is that we're going to do a good 30 to 40 minute roundtable on the Cleveland Browns, with especially all of the stories that have come out in the last 48 hours. And I'm not going to tease anything here, but just with the fallout and the overwhelming backlash of Deshaun Watson, who has not played in 2 seasons, being named starting quarterback by first-year head coach Todd Monken yesterday, stunned everyone from the fan base to the national media.
I will tease one thing. If you think we swear a lot now, just wait.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun with that one, where we'll have lots of visual aids. Again, we're going to have, for a team that's got as much promise and young talent as the Browns are, it's a 5-year contract that now really, at this point, just set the franchise back 8 years. But Mike, at least we know that in less than 200 days' time, with the information that we found out earlier today that I sent you this morning during our production call as I was getting ready for work, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Again, it's under 200 days away.
Cue up Ray Charles. Cue him up.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is once again time for the YZ Translator. It is the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. It is that time when James and I give each other names inside and outside of the sports world, and we give you the first thing that pops into our head. James, again, I have to thank you for the Rosie O'Donnell one from last week. I've watched the clip of her destroying the Hungry Hypocrite multiple times since then.
Where's a flag so I can actually do a better job?
Oompa J-Loompa. But the best part of the night with the translators, of course, the YZ Chronicle, which last week brought anger because we discussed people taking up too much room in the grocery store aisle. Tonight, James, if you would please reveal the Chronicle so we may discuss.
It will still be along the same lines of growing older, but this one might be a little bit funny. Apropos.
Oh, if that ain't the fucking truth.
Video games, driving, getting stuck behind people in the grocery store, or correction, food library, podcast.
Yes. If only we could take it out and return it. So, James, because it is incumbent upon me to give you the first name in the YZ Translator, I am going to give you one we have not spoken of in some time. And it is one that is near and dear to our hearts.
If this is where I think it's going, I'm going to slap you.
No, you're not. You're too far away. But, James, I don't think it's where you think I'm going. James, your name in tonight's YZ Translator is the sports commentator of our heart, Cleveland's own Uncle Tony Rizzo.
This had to be when I was playing him this morning and he dropped the F-bomb and walked away, correct?
Yes.
As I'm watching today's really big show, he's getting riled up and he actually even joked to where Chris Oldak, the producer, busts up laughing and says, "Hand me my blood thinners," because his blood pressure was going through the roof. And they were joking he was going to have another heart attack.
Jesus.
So, I mean, Uncle Rizzo, definitely a Shador fan. He did the smart thing by taking yesterday off, but we had to know when Rizzo takes off, major news comes. LeBron leaving, LeBron coming back, the Deshaun trade, Deshaun being named the starter. It all happened when Uncle Rizzo was off that day from the airwaves, and it was so good to actually have him back today to be able to see exactly how he was going to blow a gasket, which he kind of did. And then right after I hung up with you, they actually decide that they're going to do a survivor pool where they're going to create it. They said they're not going to be doing any money for it, and they're going to open it up to all fans. So there's going to be like 30,000 people in a survivor pool, and we can all agree that if you want to take a survivor pool, lay as many credits as you want on Jacksonville Week 1, fans.
I won't discuss the team and the schedule. I'm going to leave all of my informative language for our very special episode. But I'm laying bigger points in week 2. Who you got for me, James?
Yeah, that would be great, but I wonder what's going to happen. And I'm going to take a shot at my co-host here for a minute directly. What's going to happen? They Baker lays more points, or Mike sends me that many memes in a 24-hour span. You're cut off.
In the immortal words of Barney Stinson, challenge accepted.
Emotional damage.
I nearly left the group chat. I was that close.
Yes, the one was uncouth.
Good and terrible.
Jesus. Who you got for me tonight, bud?
Mike, another name that we've brought up a couple of times on this show. I kind of want to get your thoughts. It's a little bittersweet, because of how many times we've praised this gentleman on this show, and now we can't anymore. Your name in tonight's YZ translator is the now retired Nicholas Jamal Chubb.
Oh. I have been watching Cleveland football since 1988, the first year that my family made the trek to Cleveland for Thanksgiving to see my aunt and uncle. I remember the Here We Go Brownie song on the radio. I remember hearing names like Jim Brown and Ernest Biner and all the running backs in between, the Run William Run, the who had the all-time record, played for the Ravens too. What was his name?
Jamal Lewis,
Jamal Lewis.
Marion Motley, Leroy Kelly. Yeah.
Yep. Even into the reclamation project that was Kareem Hunt. And now with former Buckeye Quinshon Junkins in the backfield, there will never, ever be another back like Nick Chubb. He was the perfect combination of speed and power. Let's put it this way. When you think quarterback, running back tandems in Brown's history, it's Otto Graham and Jim Brown. It's Bernie Kosar and Ernest Biner. And not to pull this wound out, it's Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb in spot number 3.
In number 2, you've actually got to add another name because it was Bernie, Mac, and Biner.
That's true. So that was the tandem. So yeah, Otto Graham and Jim Brown obviously are the gold standard, maybe for the NFL. The Mac Biner backfield to go with Bernie Kosar. And then again, I'm sorry to all Browns fans that will listen to this that don't like it. The third greatest quarterback running back tandem in Cleveland Browns history is Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield. Because guess what? You know, all 3 of those running back quarterback combos have in common, they fucking won playoff games.
If Nick Chubb does not get his knee blown out by Minkah Fitzpatrick, you figure you add an extra 2,000 yards onto, maybe 2,500 yards. That puts him over 10,000 for his career. That probably would have put him in the Hall of Fame. As it stands right now, Nick Chubb retires just shy of 8,000 yards for his career. Did not lead the NFL in rushing, came in second a couple of times. Arguably one of the classiest running backs we've ever seen. He could break off a 92-yard run and then just flips the ball to the official while he's getting mobbed by his teammates. Has all those knee surgeries and comes back healthier, stronger, and hungrier than ever. Just what a classy guy, and just the perfect way for him to kind of go out as well. Saying he'll always be a Brown and everything. If they don't make him dog pound captain, have him smash that guitar, his name will go up in the Ring of Honor in the next couple of years. Again, I have no problem saying it. If Bernie would have gotten past Elway in one of those championship games, Bernie's in the Hall of Fame. If Nick Chubb does not blow out his knee and puts maybe an extra 1,500 yards on the records, Nick Chubb would be a Hall of Famer.
I agree with you. And I will say this in closing for this segment. And I'm going to be very succinct with it. not only if Minkah Fitzpatrick doesn't blow his knee out, is he a Hall of Famer? He doesn't go to Texas. He stays a Brown. And now your backfield's Quinshon Judkins and Nick Chubb.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Do you actually need to draft Quinshon Judkins at that point?
They would have. They would have, because you think about it, Chubb still had the knee injury history, even coming into the NFL. And he broke a foot at one point in time too, if I remember correctly.
He did, but I make the argument is that you would need to draft a running back, but I don't think you would have actually needed to get one that high where it might not have been Judkins. It might have been somebody in a third round as opposed to like a late first, early second at that point. Three running backs in NFL history finished their careers averaging 6 yards a carry or more. Barry Sanders, Jim Brown, Nick Chubb.
Well, James, Football-A-Palooza has come to a smashing end. And I can only say this. The caveat to this episode won't be nearly as fucking happy.
Yeah, I had a feeling if you didn't give me that name, you were actually going to give me somebody else.
No. I have other. We're doing a translator with the Brown show, and I have a couple already lined up for you.
And one other note, our condolences go out to the family, friends, and immense fans of the legendary Dolly Parton, who passed away earlier today at the age of 80.
Dude, is it me, or did this hit as hard as Betty White did?
Yeah. It's
yeah.
I mean, first of all, they took the wrong 80-year-old. Let's be honest.
Agreed. I saw a meme and I said Donnie, not Dolly. On to a happier note to end this episode. So if you notice, guys, we recorded on a Tuesday, and there is a reason for that. And it is not the fact that James is going on vacation. It is that 15 years ago tomorrow, my lovely wife and I were married. They say it is. And it will last longer if there is rain on your wedding day. Well, we got married the day before a hurricane, so I think we're good.
When Alanis.
What douchey fucks?
You're an asshole. But yeah, so Steph, happy anniversary, honey. The first 15 went pretty damn quick. I can't wait for the next 40 to 50.
And I actually think I've got, sound of Mike and Steph earlier this week.
We are the Wild and Crazy Guys.
No, that's Friday. Heather's taking Little Man. Not overnight, but we're going to actually get a night out.
Ruh-roh. So just to remind everyone, we'll be back in our normal spot next Saturday, September 5th. It'll be a post-Labor Day episode. And then also coming additionally that week, we will tape. You may not see the show run nearly as long for episode 163. The reason being is, again, programming note, we will be doing a 30 to 45-minute Cleveland Browns roundtable. It will not be a normal show. It will not be broken up into different segments. It will just be off the riff. We may actually see if John wants to come on with us. No pressure if he can't. But this will actually be looking at all the changes in the organization, where we see the controversy with the quarterback filling out, where they go from here with this. And again, we're going to be looking at everything. Why?
And we're the Cleveland Browns.
Good God. We'll see you next week, everybody.